Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Inshallah ta'ala, everybody in the best state of iman, good health, and focusing on striving to become a better Muslim, a more knowledgeable Muslim, a better person, and all the, everything that comes with it, a better friend, a better parent, a better son or daughter, to our parents, for those of us who still have our parents. And, just trying to stay focused and be mindful that we still in the sacred month, and the next 2 months is sacred months. So that, the good that you do, the reward is greater, but also the sins that you fall into, the punishment is greater. They carry more weight. So let's all be mindful of that and strive for that which is khayr. Let's strive for the good, for what's better. Pardon me. It was a brother who asked me to, he hit me up in a messenger and asked me to speak a little bit more about the beast that's going to emerge from the earth. And I'm going to try to touch on it today in brief, because I told him I'd try to do it in a week, but I had got real busy. But I'm going to touch on it today, but I also told him I really want to kind of speak on the circumstances of what the earth, what the world is going to be like when this beast emerges from the earth. And this is from the Quran ayat. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use what's said in Tafsir Ibn Kathir, where it used plenty of hadiths, and it also used some athar. One by Az-Zubair, may Allah be pleased with him, which has some detail, but this is athar. This is just a narration from somebody amongst the Salaf. This isn't what the Rasul said. It doesn't say that he said the Rasul told him this. It doesn't really specifically clarify where he got the information. Now, in the footnotes, it said it was in, this athar came out of the Sunan of Ibn Majah, but it had a number. I went and looked at that number in my set, but my set is Arabic and English. So I'm going to have to go through it so the numbers don't match, basically. So I'm going to have to dig in it and find it and look at a little bit more details of it. But in Tafsir Ibn Kathir, it doesn't necessarily say where he got this information from, but this was reported from people from amongst the Salaf. But so once I speak on it, I want to speak on some of the conditions of the Muslims and a video that I listen to. Periodically I go listen to these brothers, man, and the future of the Ummah scares me. I hate to say that. It scares me, but it scares me to the point where I realize how much more I have to focus on me and trying to get myself to Jannah, as opposed to, I gotta say this, man, nobody else's Jannah can be more important than yours. When you go to the commandments and what Islam teaches us, save yourself from the fire first. Then you go start trying to save other people. Because if you haven't saved yourself from the fire, it's a very strong, well, I ain't gonna say strong possibility, but what's the possibilities of you just helping people get on the path that you want? And this gonna make sense, Bithni Allah Ta'ala, it's gonna make more sense as I discuss a little bit more. So let me touch this tafsir a little bit of it. So the Quran ayat is in Surah 27, ayat number 82. And it says, and when the word is fulfilled against them, when Allah sends that commandment down, it's over with. We shall bring out from the earth a beast from them for them. We shall bring from the earth a beast for them to speak to them, because mankind believe not with certainty in our ayat. Now some translations, so now keeping in mind, when the beast emerges from the earth to speak to the people, it's saying because mankind believed not with certainty in our ayats. Some translations say that mankind changed the true religion. You see what I'm saying? So just giving y'all some of the translations. So basically, when, for this conversation, basically when the deen of Islam isn't recognizable, when the deen of Islam is going to become something entirely different. Do that mean people might not pray 5 times a day? Nah, don't mean that. Do it mean that people might not still be fasting for Ramadan? It don't mean that. But it's certain things, certain aspects of the religion, like people might pray, people might recite the Quran, but some of the belief systems and some of the things that they up on is so corrupt, it has absolutely no place in Islam. It's going to be like a whole bunch of bid'ah. Like, let's say, for instance, you take a whole country, right? You take one whole country, and 90% of the people line up in that country to pray, to not pray facing Mecca. That's something not recognizable. And then they have dalil such as Allah never told us to do that. You understand what I'm saying? So it can still look like Islam, but not be it. Fast all day and then break your fast when it's during the daylight hours, due to something that, a misinterpretation of something. Just different things, right? Different belief systems. So as we get on, so as this gets worse, where it's even saying sometimes, I don't know if this is before the beast or after the beast or after the Dajjal, but closer to the end of the hour, the most people gonna be able to say is that I know my creator is Allah. They not gonna know nothing about the Rasul. And I can see how that can happen, because Prophet and Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the name is definitely being kept alive. But a lot of the sunnah, a lot of the practices and the beliefs, the way the Rasul lived out the Quran, the way he taught it, and the way his companions lived it out, and the righteous from amongst that generation, that is being lost. That is being lost. Now, it may sound strange to certain people, because they might not see it that way. Because on our tongue is Quran and Sunnah, Quran and Sunnah. I'm a Sunni. I'm Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But some of the practices, some of the point of views on how we practice certain things from Islam didn't come from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It didn't come from Quran al-Kareem. And some of it actually contradicts Quran and the Sunnah. There is some issues where people can differ in certain things, but even that has to be paid attention to, especially because you have to understand, in Islam, our deeds, our actions fall into particular categories. One, and I don't want to get too much detail. One, the scholars of usul, the scholars of fiqh, the scholars of hadith, right? They all don't agree on exactly what's considered to be the sunnah. Some of them will say, just in brief, some of them will say the sunnah is anything that didn't come from the Quran. Some will say it's anything that the Rasul did, commanded, seen somebody else do and didn't disapprove of it, right? And then, so that's just a little different. So you have your 5 categories: wajib, mustahab. So your wajib is what is obligatory, right? But not only is it obligatory, that's just the best English word that they can find to describe wajib, but it's not necessarily the definition. The definition is basically an act or a deed. If you leave it off, there's a punishment for it. And if you do it, there's a reward for it. So, and then like with mustahab, it's a deed. There's no punishment if you leave it off, but there's a reward if you do it. Right? Now, some people, due to the way they consider to be the sunnah, and they change the category around. The categories around and added some. The Hanafis. So they add fard. So that's why you'll see some categories where they have wajib and fard as the same thing. So with them, they have fard, but the deeper meaning is it's something that came from the Quran. So then they changed the category of wajib similar to what's considered to be mustahab. So you might hear certain people say this is wajib, but you got to know as they speaking which science they speaking from. You understand? Because they might just mean that it's recommended. Mustahab. So that's just giving things in brief. So this and due to these is why certain things is different about. Sometimes it's just within the categories. But as simple as it is, you can see where the complication is coming in, because I'm not stating this as a fact, but I've heard other scholars say this. Sometimes people see something in Islam, like they had this term. It's not a new term, but they had this term, hadiths that's considered to be problematic. So sometimes, not all, but sometimes when people see something that they consider to be a hadith that's problematic, but it might not be a problem, it just go against what they've been taught their whole life. So they start coming up with ways to weaken it. And then there's hadiths that's da'if, they weak, they fabricate it, and then but they love it and they want it, so they start finding ways to strengthen it. So this just in general, just to show how a lot of things is starting to change. Where first and foremost, this Quran ayat is letting us know that a beast is going to come from the earth when this deen has been changed so much. So regardless of what is agreed on and this and that, the deen is going to be different. And I can see it. So, and then I'm going to speak on a little bit more of some of the details. So like it says right here, right? Chapter heading, I'm using Tafsir's Ibn Kathir, right? The emergence of the beast of the earth. This is a beast which will emerge at the end of time, when mankind has become corrupt and neglected the commands of Allah and changed the true religion. The true religion, the deen of Islam, is going to be changed. Mankind going to become corrupt, and they're going to neglect the commands of Allah. One of the first things in neglecting the commands of Allah Azza wa Jal is following the sunnah of his messenger and our prophet Rasulullah wa Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Following the way that he did things, the way that he gave the deen to us, we neglect it, but we don't know it because we've been spoon-fed. When you neglecting a whole lot of the sunnah, you're gonna be neglecting a whole lot of the Quran because he was living the Quran out. Just like, for instance, the individuals who feel like hadiths ain't real, they came later, they superstition, all these other type of things. With this command, all you need is the Quran. The Quran speaks about this beast that's going to come from the earth. So what did that mean? The Rasul spoke on these things in detail when certain signs of the hour is going to come. So what do that mean? There's a hadith that's attached to the Quran ayat. But you have people who use hadiths and say, the people came to the Rasul and said, how do we know? The Rasul basically said there's going to come a time when people are going to say that I said things that I never said. We can see that. So they said, well, how do we know what's what? Do the English translations where it says you won't be able to find it in the Quran. That means if exactly what the hadith says to them, that means if exactly what the hadith says isn't in the Quran, that means it's not in there. So therefore, for instance, praying 5 times a day, because they don't know how to find it in the Quran, praying 5 times a day isn't real. The Quran only mentioned 3 times a day. And they use their hadith to discredit hadiths. But when you see a commandment talking about the beast that's going to emerge from the earth when the deen of Islam has been changed, you can go find the hadiths that starts to break this down. You understand the way when this ayat came down and the Rasul started to explain it and talk to the people, that's a hadith attached. Some people may look at that hadith and say, I don't believe in that. You can't find that in the Quran. But you can find it in the Quran. They just don't know it. You see what I'm saying? This is where the deen is starting to be changed. So look what else it say. Then Allah will cause a beast to emerge from the earth. It was said that it will be brought from Mecca or from somewhere else. As we shall discuss in detail below, if Allah's will, the beast will speak to the people about matters. Ibn Abbas, Al-Hasan, and Qatada, 3 people from the Salaf, said, and it was also narrated from Ali, may Allah be pleased with all of them, that it will speak words, meaning it will address the people that it comes to. Right? You got Ali, you got Ibn Abbas, right? These is individuals who sat with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, discussing what he told them about these ayats. Right? So many hadiths and reports have been narrated about the beast, and we will narrate as many of them as Allah enables us to, for he is the one who help when we seek. Right? So I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to touch a little bit of them for the sake of time. Right? So hadith, one of the first signs to appear, this is the signs of the hour. One of the first signs to appear will be the rising of the sun from the west and the emergence of the beast to mankind in the forenoon. Whichever of them appears first, the other will follow close behind. So if the sun rises in the west first, then the beast is soon to emerge from the earth. Right? Or if the beast emerges first, then the sun is going to rise from the west. These are signs of the hour, right? So that's just one hadith on it. So another hadith with some nasiha, some highly recommended, right? That we definitely should do, right? I'm going to say, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to put it in the category for the sake of this. So look, hasten to do good deeds before 6 things appear: the rising of the sun from the west, the smoke, the Dajjal, the beast, and the death of one of your favorite, and general affliction. Right? So hasten to do good deeds before these things happen. Don't, because see, some of the other things are saying once this start to happen, it ain't gonna do no good for a person to believe at that time. You know what I'm saying? So just to go to one athar with a little bit more detail about it, then I want to discuss some certain things, right? So Ibn Jurayj reported that Ibn Az-Zubair, may Allah be pleased with both of them, described the beast and said, its head is like the head of a bull, its eyes are like the eyes of a pig, its ears are like the ears of an elephant, its horns are like the horns of a stag, its neck is like the neck of an ostrich, its chest is like the chest of a lion, its color is like the color of a tiger, its haunchness are like the haunchness of a cat, its tail is like the tail of a ram, and its legs are like the legs of a camel. Between each pair of its joints, it is the distance of 12 cubits. Man, that's the distance between each of its joints. So if you want to count the elbow one joint and the wrist, the distance between this and this is going to be 12 cubits. But you got to look, this a joint and this a joint. Not saying they're going to have hands like us, but whatever its joints look like, the distance between them is going to be 12 cubits. This not going to be no little beast, right? It will bring out with it the staff of Musa and the ring of Suleiman, right? There will be no believer left without it making a white spot on his face. Some hadith say it's going to be like it's going to scratch your nose. Some say right around the nose, right? A white spot on his face, which will spread until all his face is shining white as a result, and there will be no disbeliever left without it making a black spot on his face, right? Which will spread until all his face is black as a result. Then when the people trade with one another in the marketplace, they will say, how much is this, O believer? How much is this, O believer? And when the members of one household sits down together to eat, they will know who is a believer and who is a disbeliever. SubhanAllah, then, right? Then the beast will say, oh so-and-so, enjoy yourself, for you are among the people of paradise. These are the ones whose face is going to be white. Now, do it mean you're going to be able to see the nur of righteousness on this person? And then the other one, being able to see that dark, gloomy, demonic side of them. Like their appearance is going to be that clear by dealing with them, right? And it will say, oh so-and-so, you are among the people of hell. That is what Allah says in the ayat. And when the word is fulfilled against them, this is ayat number 82, we shall bring out from the earth a beast for them to speak to them, because mankind believe not with certainty in our ayats. And then the explanations is showing they basically gonna change the true religion into something else. Now, let's speak a little bit. That's just some little bit of short explanation and giving a little bit of detail about the beast that's going to emerge, which comes from the Quran. We need an explanation of this. The best, when it comes to the deen, we need to comprehend understanding the Quran and the Sunnah the way the people that the Rasul taught it to understood it. The problem is, throughout time, because we've been turned away from tafsirs, we've been turned away from hadiths, we come up with our own understandings. Like right now, I'm not going to say no names, but everybody does their own interpretation of the Quran where they change the Arabic, even to the point where there's a group that translating the Quran from English to English. I'm not going to say their name, but you can find them. You can actually order this Quran on Amazon. And they put their own translation, their own spin on things. Dangerous. Because this is how they understand it. This is how they want it applied. Same with different things. So like with hadiths, you can give a person right now in this day and time, you can give a person a Quran ayat, the tafsir, and then give them 10, 15 hadiths that apply. That's authentic, not changed, written down during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The hadiths match perfectly with the Quran ayat, and then they'll still turn around and tell you, no, this is what needs to be done. No, this is how that goes. Not realizing you're rejecting the Quran and Sunnah. But you don't feel like you're rejecting it because you're putting your own spin on it. This is Allah's deen, not yours. Right? So when you have to be able to look into the tricks of the shaytan, right? How did shaytan originally get men to start worshiping statues? I'm not going to use the term idol because there's different things that could be idolized as opposed to just a statue, right? But this is the essence of it. So, and I'm going to keep it brief because I don't want this to get too long. But back in the day, people who was righteous, prophets, people we would consider in this day and time to be imams, priests, scholars, righteous people. So when these righteous people would pass away, people would miss them so much, right, that they started to make statues of these people in honor of them. So they started to make statues of these people in honor of them. So as generations came along, they started coming to the statues of the people and started worshiping them, asking them for favors. You see what I'm saying? I'm starving. Can you bless me with some food? Making dua to them. But then some of the trickery is, you were so righteous and I'm a filthy person. I can't talk to our Creator directly. So I'm finna come talk to you so you can talk to the Creator for me. So then as time went on, this turned into other things that people loved, and they started making statues out of them. Oh, the owl is a mystical creature to us. It actually says the word who and different things. So they started making owls to worship. They started making females. And so then next thing you know, all these little statues became their gods. But then other people who didn't necessarily buy into those things stuck to some of that original SHIRK, and they just worshiped the sun, the moon, trees, the ocean, the air. But the statue worship, this is where it came from. Look at the trickery of shaytan, because these people was righteous. Now, why am I speaking on that? Because you need to be able to see shaytan in things. So right now, you have a group of Muslims who do the exact same thing, but they just don't make a statue. They go to the graves of these righteous people and claim they using them as an intercession. So they make dua to the person in the grave, because this person was who they consider to be a righteous scholar. And then I'm going to speak on how they elevate them. And I listened to a talk last night on some individuals doing this exact thing. And I was just like, a lot of y'all come from Christianity. Y'all was just doing this with Prophet. Well, I'm going to say Jesus. Because the description of the person that they go with as Jesus doesn't fit this description of Isa alayhi salam. But we know who they trying to tie this into Prophet Isa alayhi salam. But they done created a whole mythical character. But anyway, y'all come from that. How you come to Islam and do the same thing, but even in a worse fashion, because you're going to these people's grave, or they starting to put pictures of them, on necklaces, on their shirts, or hang a picture of them in their house, almost like a shrine where they pray to them. They're sheikhs. This is the exact same thing. What happened, the only difference was the people was building statues. They've just removed the statues, but they replaced some of them, replacing them with pictures. They replacing the statues with real pictures. And this is Muslims. You have groups, they pray to what they call the 12 Imams. Now, on a smaller level, some people may not pray to these individuals, but they'll go with what they say over what the Quran and Sunnah say. Oh, this was the Imam of my madhab. We know the Quran say this, we know the Sunnah says do this and this, but this particular Imam saw it this way, we do it this way. This particular Imam said this is how we do it as black people. So you have a Quran ayat where it basically speaks about how some of the things that the people that earned Allah's wrath and anger, this is a Quran ayat. Basically, they took their rabbis, they took their sheikhs as their Lord. And in the Quran ayat and in the hadith that's attached to it, because one of the people who came from Kufr to Islam took some offense to the Rasul talking about it and said, how did we did, they were just righteous people. How did we take them as our Lord? And he said, because when they made something halal, impermissible, when they changed the halal to haram, you stayed away from it. And when they changed the haram to halal, you acted up on it. Therefore, you took them as your Lord. So some of these individuals which turn, let's say, the covering for the women. Some of them changed it and said, well, you just have to cover your head. You know, certain Indian countries, you only have to cover your head. It don't mean none of your hair can show. You know what I'm saying? It don't mean your ears and neck. All you have to just do this. Besides, when you do this and the entire right here and then a little bit of that show, that actually looks more beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, you only have to cover your head. Your hair and everything else can hang out only when you go in a masjid. When you walk around with your husband, you don't need none of that. Or when you're not in a masjid, you don't need none of that. You only have to do that when you pray. I even heard one of the callers to these particular groups of Black Islam say that hijab basically meant a brick wall. Right? Hijab basically meant a brick wall. So you trying to tell me that Allah is saying in the Quran, put a brick wall on their head? Yeah. People took that. People took that. So with these imams, and I'm going to call them imams because they call themselves imams. So what they were speaking on, right, was Imam Bukhari and how they traveled to the graves of Imam Bukhari. So, you know, just listening to some of them, it's showing how they basically building some masjid or some type of thing where Imam Bukhari is. I don't know for details, but listen to them because they talking about it's under construction and where people had to go this and there. But I heard one of them say out of his mouth. So, you know, some of them, they done went to the graves of Imam Tirmidhi, great people, and some of these other different sheikhs. So, but they saying they going and they want to represent Black Muslims. And I'm really going to get to the danger of they call. But he said, so when they went to the grave of one of these people, he said out his mouth, I asked him to get us to a point where we as Black people can start to get this knowledge and come as a group and basically start to come travel and represent the Black Muslims that come to these graves and seek assistance and better cop. Now, the trickery. Shaytan hears this. Shaytan can whisper into the ears of another wicked person and things might fall in line and you might think it's from Allah. And he said out of his mouth, he asked the person in the grave for this. So they even going to as far as to Quran ayat Surah 10. They didn't say which ayat it was, but I'm familiar with it because I listened to what he said. You go to Surah 10 and starting around ayat 62 up to 64, it speaks on some of the characteristics of what they translate to mean the friends of Allah. Right? So what they do is they take these ayats and then they start to place these characteristics on people they consider to be friends of Allah, people they loved, people they admire. So then they, because of the love and admiration they have for them, they elevate them to friends of Allah. Why do they elevate them to friends of Allah? So that they can go to their graves and pray to them. But they sit down and say, well, we're not praying to them directly. We're just asking them to be the go-between between me and Allah. They're righteous people. Their affair has already been reached. It's signed, sealed. They live, they passed away, and right now they can intercede between me and Allah. Now, when you even know about Yom Kiyama, the resurrection and all this, do you feel like they already had the day of judgment? Because the earth has to end, everything has to be this way, the beast has to emerge, the sun has to rise from the west. All these things have to happen first. Are you telling me because you're elevating somebody to a friend of Allah that's in the grave that they're talking directly to Allah for you? Where can you find that you can talk to directly to Allah before in the next life? We know that when we make salat, when we make dua, yeah, we talking to Allah. But where has it been said that you can make dua for other people or even for yourself in the grave? See, I'm a Dalil person. You got to show me first and foremost where a Quran ayat says that, where the Rasul practiced that and taught that. Trace that back to who was the first person that said this. How do you know that person is in the grave that you gonna make dua to can make dua for you? What's the dalil for that? And the trickery is they elevate them to being what they consider to be a friend of Allah. Where's your proof for this? Don't tell me an independent sheikh said this, because this is what they're going through. Oh, well, sheikh such and such said this. Even to the point where I'm seeing more and more, like I've been listening to these particular groups for years, and this is my first time in 2024. This is my first time hearing one of them say. I don't listen to them all the time. Sometimes I go years without paying them any attention. You know what I'm saying? But one of them, what they said was that a sheikh says, when you mention one of these people that they've elevated to a friend of Allah, not saying Allah may have considered them to be a friend. I can't do that. You understand? But they said that the sheikh said that being that they are a friend of Allah, when you mention their name, Allah's mercies descend, comes down on you. So guess what they doing? Making dhikr. So just like right now, if I sit down and say, A'udhu Billah, Imam Bukhari, Imam Bukhari, Imam Bukhari. Every time I mention Imam Bukhari's name, remembering Imam Bukhari, Allah puts this mercy from Allah descends down on me for mentioning, just sitting around saying Imam Bukhari, Imam Bukhari. How you fall into this? Then going to their graves. Even said that their sheikh said going to them while they're in their grave is the exact same as going to them as when they was living. Now I do know some authentic reports about like they in the grave, the people in the grave, they can still hear us. So you might see a Muslim that passed away, you might walk up to him, Assalamu alaikum. For the people, who might need to ease the heart, hey, your kid's doing good. You might have some type of conversation, I miss you, you know what I'm saying? These things. But once you start to go to that grave, because it could be somebody that I loved, that I admired, that I could have deemed to be a righteous person. Now because of the love that I have for them, I don't know where they stood with Allah. Now I could go to this person's grave and say, you know what? To me, you fit the characteristics of a friend of Allah. So while you in that grave, I'm going to say, I'm having issues at my job. Please fix it for me. Can you go talk to Allah for me and have him fix it? Because you one of his friends, and your affair has already been decided. Go ask Allah to fix the issues I'm having at my job for me. When I could just sit down and say, Bismillah, Allahumma, Allah, I'm having some issues with my job. Can you help? Can you rectify that affair for me? I can go do some rakats and get in prostration. I could do some things as a wasila. Allah, I'm going to fast 3 days, and some of the intentions with that fast is if I'm doing some wrong that's causing me to have issues with my job, whatever those bad deeds I'm doing, those things I'm doing that I'm not aware of, that I'm not noticing, I want to follow up whatever wrong I'm doing with some good, and I want to fast for 3 days and offer that up. Why would I go to the grave of a person whose affair has been decided and ask them to do it for me, and they in the grave? Where does the Quran teach that? Where does the Rasul do that? And then I'm elevating them to a friend of Allah because I sit down and look at these Quran ayats and say, oh man, that was my man. They fit this description. And I'm going to mention a person. I'm going to mention an individual. He was a student of Hadith. He actually graduated from the University of Medina, I think with a bachelor's in the science of Hadiths. I've always been, Hadith is the first science. You know, I was in Hadith before I even knew what tafsirs was. I'm going to be honest about that. And I love the way Allah placed little certain things in my life. You know what I'm saying? So I was a Hadith fanatic. So being that he was a graduate from the school of Hadiths, while he was a student, I used to listen to dude. You know, they push him down. You know, he was pushed down people's throat. But, you know, he was pretty decent. You know what I'm saying? His name was Abdul Wali Nelson. So when he finally graduates and come home, and he been home for a little bit, you know, he doing CDs, and not a lot of students had came home yet. Come to find out, the whole time while he was over there in the Prophet City in Medina getting an education, this dude was molesting and raping his wife's daughter, his stepdaughter. It started when she was 7 years old in the Prophet City, making her perform oral sex on him, all the way up until the age of her being like 15, 16 years old. So when they came home, she told the male members in her family what dude had been doing to her. So, you know, they bum rushed the masjid and tried to get at dude. They helped him escape. To this day, he hasn't been seen. You know what I'm saying? But it ain't like they caught up with him and put him in a hole somewhere. They helped him escape. He's in exile, as they would call it. But the point is, people could have looked at him and elevated him to one of the friends of Allah. This man was married So when you go into the Islamic aspect, one, if you marry and you having sex outside of your marriage, that's adultery. Major sin. Major sin. So let's just elevate this little girl to a grown woman. If he was doing these things in the prophet city with a grown woman, that's adultery. Right? He's a married person. Now bring it all the way down. And you in hadiths. What's the permissibility of if you married to a woman and you divorce her, can you marry her daughter and have sex with her? So now we can bring that in. The impermissibility of that. But this is a hadith student. Graduate. But he's doing this while he's going to school, while she's 7 years old. All the way up to the age of her being 15, 16 years old. It's 8, 9 years. So, I'm saying, you know, he had a lot of CDs and lectures you could listen to. He did pretty good. You could have elevated that. So I could see I wouldn't do it. But people can elevate people based off of their own criteria, and then it make it permissible for them to go to their grave and call out to them. Oh man, my wife acting up. Can you go talk to Allah for me? While you in there, call Allah on the phone, man, and tell him to fix my marriage. You know, although me saying call him on the phone, that's adding a little humor to it, because just to add the listen to how ridiculous this sound. But and I'm listening to these people on their live. I didn't catch it live because I was at work. I waited till it was over with and started listening to it. And you could see how many views, how many people was watching it. You could look at the comments. And one of the things that he said in that call was, we need, in order to get other people to accept this and accept us, we need to clean up our adab. We need to be softer. We need to be nicer. It's almost like we finna smile in their face, and once they come hug us, we gonna stab them in the back. Because this is shirk. Whether you call it I'm seeking intercession from this person, or I'm not praying to him, I'm just asking him to pray to Allah for me. What? And this is why I'm saying, this is why I have a fear for the future. And then the thing that kills me the most is they cloaking it as this is something that the black Muslims need to start doing. Especially in America. They're already doing it over there in Africa. You know, such and such and them around through India. And now the black Muslims need. I went to the grave and asked the person in the grave to facilitate this. I heard him say out of his own mouth that he asked dude for it. Somebody they consider to be a great sheikh. They doing this with regular scholars. You know, Imam Bukhari, yes, Imam Bukhari was a great individual. Preserved the Sunnah at its finest. Set a standard, set a criteria for the preservation of the Sunnah. But I'm not finna go to his grave, travel all the way over to the other side of the globe to go to his grave and ask him to talk to Allah for me. Make a dua. Imam Bukhari, may Allah be pleased with you. You know, Muhammad Ismail, good brother. the blacks in America is impoverished. Can you please enrich us with the knowledge that you have, plus a little bit of dollars? When you look at where Shaytan did this in the very beginning, they doing the exact same thing. They just removed the statues. And then when you come from Kufa and you were just doing the same thing with Jesus, may even had a wooden cross on your wall with a dead body on it like this, and you walk up to it and pray to it, or it's on your neck, all gold, expensive, diamond encrusted, cross with a dead person on it, and when you leave the house, you kissing it, hanging it up, even putting Jesus statues all on a dashboard. Some of y'all came from this. How you come to Islam and fall into it? But I know how. That mischievous shaitan, man. And I'm gonna touch this and I'm gonna close out, man. I gotta start getting ready for work. This is something else that I'm noticing, man. And I think at a particular time, I fell into it. Sometimes when we in gangs or social clubs, certain type of things like fraternities, fraternal orders, the Masons, the Shriners, the Kappas, the Gammas, whatever these fraternities is, motorcycle clubs, car clubs, these different little clubs, gangs. And let's say you have a little bit, these organizations might have a little bit of pull. Like let's say you a Kappa or whatever, or you a Mason, and you may know some other Masons at your job, but you may not know they're Mason. But let's say y'all do this. You walk in a room and do this, and then they do that back. Oh, okay, this is another Mason. I'm good. I'm gonna get this job. This job gonna be easy peasy for me because another Mason let me in, or another Kappa, or I was in this gang. Now the supervisor at this job was in the same gang. I'm good. Sometimes we fall into giving those things more credit than we give Allah Azza wa Jal. Sometimes it's the same way with family. Sometimes we do the same thing with our spouse. We be more dependent on them making things right or making things easy, as opposed to Allah Azza wa Jal. And I think I fell into it a little bit on different type of levels, experiencing things with the 5%ers, the gang, and then just what I consider to be my people. The black American, African American, whatever you want to call yourself, whatever label you want to put on us. Sometimes you start thinking that you can get a group of us and be able to build, and because it's us and it's because it's for our cause, you put too much emphasis on us. And what you're going to start to notice is all these things is going to let you down. When you get too caught up in the Masons, because I know some Muslims that's Masons, right? I know some Muslims in fraternities. And once they get too caught up in that, those organizations start to let them down. When some of these spouses get so caught up in that with their spouse let them down. You get too caught up in this with your family, your mother, your father, your brothers, your sisters. Guess what happened? They let you down. They let you down. Even in the Muslim Brotherhood. Oh man, I'm Muslim, man. The Muslim brother, he hiring. He helping people get jobs. It's gonna be all good. And then it turned out to be other than that. they end up letting you down because we not putting that thing in Allah first. You know, it's a slippery slope. And anybody who paying attention, man, like, you know, just put it in your point of view. And then just look at situations that you've involved yourself in, whether it's a clique full of Muslim brothers. Hey, man, we're going to all get together. We're going to study. We're going to read Sahih Bukhari together. You know, we're going to learn some Arabic and this and that. And you're not putting that faith and trust in Allah. You putting it in a group. Man, in a year time, you know how thorough we going to be? They end up letting you down. You know what I'm saying? Some people, man, when they was in the worst situations that they ever been in. I even got a video on this. He's speaking on, have you ever been in a situation where you realize Allah's the only, you could only call on Allah alone. See, I'm stumbling my word because I don't want to use the word thing or person. When Allah, you can only call on Allah. Sometimes people be in a bad situation. They call their mother, they call their father, they let them down. They call their brother, they call their sisters, they let them down. They ask their wife, they ask their husband, they let them down. They ask their motorcycle club, they ask their car club, they ask the Masons, they ask the Kappas, the Gammas, or whatever it is, and they let them down. You know what I'm saying? They let them down. And see, I'm finna close on, and wallahi, this is a true story, and I'm gonna close on it. Just to show you where I had to start to learn to develop taqwa. Yesterday, I went to work, and I took a little bit of change with me, because I didn't want to really eat nothing, right? So I took a little bit of change in case I wanted a snack. I bought me a couple of little snacks. I still got a little change left. Wallahi, this is a wallahi, true story. A few hours go by. I'm craving, another little snack, but I don't have enough money for the snacks. So wallahi, I take the change and I make dua. Allah, please, wallahi. Allah, I always say please when I go to Allah. So I'm like, Allah, please make a way for me. Let me find some more change. Let me put this change in the machine where it just works out where I'm able to get a snack. I put my trust in Allah. Wallahi, I go in there. Wallahi. I start putting nickels in the machine. Because I only got nickels and dimes. I put some nickels in the machine. Wallahi. It counted, and then the nickel will fall right back at the bottom. I pick the nickel back up, put it in there, it'll fall again. Right? Wallahi. So now I was putting the rest of the change, it's not falling. Now, 30 cents short. Like 30 cents short from what I need. So I'm like, dang, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. So, Qardur of Allah. So I just push the button and then 4 quarters and a bunch of nickels, basically, wallahi, exactly what I needed to buy something fell out the machine in quarters and nickels. Exactly what I needed. And then I put it in there and got the little snack out the machine. Because I put that trust in Allah. Wallahi, I put that trust in Allah and I sought out, and wallahi, Allah made a way for me. Now, let's say, for instance, I had a Muslim brother that worked in there, or a fraternal brother, a Kappa, or whatever, one of the old gang guys. And I went in there and depended, hey man, you got some change on you? Nah, man, I'm hurting. You know what I'm saying? I put my trust in Allah. I ain't had to go all the way over to the cemetery to one of the imams that passed away in this community and said, hey, you know, you one of the friends of Allah to me. Can you while you in there, can you talk to Allah about making this change enough so I can get a snack out the machine? Nah. And I thank Allah for what he did for me, and it allowed me to be able to tell y'all this story right now today. And wallahi, that's a true story. It happened yesterday. Last night. Around maybe like, I don't know, right, 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock or something like that. Wallahi, gotta learn to put your trust in Allah. That's tawakkul. And in my head, because I know about how Allah feeds the birds, how Allah feeds animals. All they got to do is just go out there, leave out, go look for some food, and then they go home full. Allah, because I understand Allah's risk. You know what I'm saying? Animal, even when they have kids, they go out and find enough to look at all the stray homeless cats and different animals, the ants. They come out their homes, they go seek that provision, and Allah provides it for them. Allah is the Lord of the Alameen. So I always take that concept. Sometimes you got to be like the bird and put your trust in Allah and go out there, and Allah make you straight. You know what I'm saying? So, man, alhamdulillah, man. So, you know, hopefully, man, you know, just to sum it up, man, you got to be careful, man. Know the tricks of the shaytan so you can start to recognize them. And, you know, I'm going to speak on something. I'm going to make another video. Bismi Allah Ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Any mistakes I made, slips of the tongue, or, you know, babbling, or anything that may sound confusing that come off from me, that came from myself and the shaitan. Anything that I said that was correct came from Allah Azza wa Jalla Muqtadir wal Alim. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.